Okay, so I want you to just try a little thought project with me right now. Think about the last time you tried something new or put yourself out there and it didn't really go to plan. Maybe you started a new system, abandoned it by Thursday. Maybe you spoke up at a meeting and immediately wished you hadn't. Maybe you signed up for something and you didn't even go to that something. It's the ADHD tax as always. Now, recall the sentence that followed, the thing your brain said about what happened. I'd assume it wasn't neutral. It probably sounded something like, I always do this. I never follow through. I'm too much. I'm not disciplined enough. Something's wrong with me. Shocker, another try that didn't work. So, for the next few minutes, I want you to hold this loosely. What if that sentence is not a fact? What if it's an artifact? Something buried so deeply in your operating system that it feels like truth, but it's actually just an old story. That's what we're digging into in this month. Welcome to month 3. Welcome back to Victoria's Coaching. I'm Vicky, PCC Resilience Coach, facilitator. This is a free 6-month self-coaching series for late diagnosed neurodiverse women. If you're new here, definitely go to the first video, which is linked in the description. Month 1's all about the nervous system, regulation, really the place to start. Go there now, okay? In here, we're talking beliefs, that good old chestnut, if you will. The ones that were installed before you had any say in the matter, non-consensual. The ones that feel like they are you, and the ones that continue to run the show even when you intellectually know better. So the framework is called the Belief Archaeology. We're not bulldozing, we're not ripping things out, we're actually excavating carefully, meticulously, with tools and intention and respect for what we find, even when what we find is inconvenient, painful, kind of boring in its predictability. But we'll start with the most fundamental distinction in the entire framework. It's very simple. Your brain will want to skip right past it. If you were around for the self-trust module, some of this will sound familiar. A belief is not a fact. My hair is like, okay. Groundbreaking, I know. But here's what's what. A fact is verifiable, objective, and neutral. I didn't finish that project by the deadline. It's a fact, it happened. Others observing would simply say the same thing. A belief is the meaning that we assign to said fact. I didn't finish because I'm fundamentally incapable of follow through. I didn't finish because ADHD strikes again. Those aren't facts. Those are interpretations, stories, radio stations, a conclusion your brain drew, probably a long time ago, probably based on incomplete data, and then reinforced every single time something happened that was similar, vaguely similar. And then lastly, we make ourselves correct with every iteration of that reinforced meaning. Thus, we become righteous in what we believe to be true. And whatever you believe is your truth. Our nervous systems do not differentiate between beliefs and facts the way we'd like or expect them to. So when you've heard you're lazy or you're not trying hard enough for 20, 30, 40 years, whether from teachers, parents, your internal monologue, your nervous system encodes that this is reality. It becomes the water you swim in. You don't question water. You just assume it's the foundation. It is what holds you up. So the first move in belief archaeology is learning to pause and ask, is this a fact? Or is this a belief I've been treating like a fact? And I'll be real with you as always. It is harder than it sounds. Simple, not easy. If you've done the truth versus story work we did in month 2, you know of what I speak. Because the really entrenched beliefs, they don't announce themselves. They show up as obvious, as everyone knows this, as that's just how I am. I'm not a morning person, maybe. Or maybe you were shamed for your sleep patterns as a kid, and now any attempt to wake up early triggers a shame spiral that makes the whole thing feel impossible. Thanks to more sleep science, we know 2 things. these days. For example, one, women need more sleep than men. Two, we now know about chronotypes, and these have significantly more stake in your sleep patterns than literally anything else. So you may not be a morning person because of an early experience, or because you tend to go to sleep late, or because your chronotype is one that doesn't suit you being a morning person. All very different, all very attributable to more than one thing. Okay, so that was an easy example, but once you start to notice that a belief is a belief and not an immovable truth that it's been pretending to be, the next question is, where did it come from? And this is where archaeology metaphor really earns its keep. Because you're not just pulling things up randomly, right? You're being intentional. You are brushing away layers. You're asking, when was the first time I remember feeling this way? And I'll be real and clear. It's not about blaming your parents, okay? It's not about building a case against your third grade teacher. Tracing a belief back to its origin is about understanding, not indicting. When you can see where something started, it loses some of its authority. It goes from this is who I am to this is something I learned in a specific context that may or may not still be relevant. The best quote that I've come across for this is name it to tame it. For a lot of late diagnosed women, here's what that origin point looks like. You were a kid, you were bright, you were also struggling with things that seemed easy for everyone else. Nobody knew it was ADHD. So the explanation that got offered either by adults around you or by your own developing brain was a character flaw. You are wrong. She's smart, but she doesn't apply herself. She could do it if she tried. She's dramatic and doesn't pay attention. She's too sensitive. She talks too much. As a result, you may have been left out of some important conversations. And you took that in. Of course you did. You were a kid. Children don't have the cognitive framework to say, actually, I think there might be a neurological explanation for why executive functioning tasks are disproportionately difficult for me. Give me a moment to recollect myself. We just believe the adults. And the adults just believe the authorities at the time. So now you're 35, 40, 45, 60. You have a diagnosis. You understand intellectually that these old narratives were based on incomplete information, but the belief is still in there. It's still firing. It still shows up every time you miss a deadline or forget a commitment, lose your keys for the fourth time that week. That static radio station playing your background mental music is leading you more than you think. The origin point matters because it gives you context. It's the difference between this belief is the truth about me and this belief made sense when I was 8 and had no other explanation. Worlds apart. So this brings us to what I think is probably the most important part of the episode, maybe this whole month. There's a massive cavernous gap between intellectually understanding something and actually integrating it. I'm just laughing at like where my mic is, lol. I say this as someone who spent years collecting insights like they were Pokemon cards, which I used to watch the hell out of Pokemon when I was growing up, okay? I could explain attachment theory. I could talk about my patterns. I could name every single one of my limiting beliefs in alphabetical order, should you ask. I've always been a great student. I'm good at that. I ensured it. And I was still doing the same thing, still reacting the same ways, still believing at a body level that I was too much and not enough simultaneously. The gap between knowing and embodying, this is where bypassing lives. Spiritual bypassing, intellectual bypassing, self-awareness bypassing, whatever. The sneakiest of them all is the self-awareness bypassing, I think. Where you use your understanding of your patterns as a way to not actually change them. You narrate your dysfunction with such clarity that it feels like progress. But narration is not integration. Saws. So how do you know if you've intellectually understood something but have not integrated it? Some signs of bypassing. You can explain a belief pattern clearly, yet you still get hijacked by it in real time. You feel frustrated with yourself for still reacting this way when you know better. You've read the books, done the worksheets, maybe even talked about it in therapy or with a coach, but the felt experience has not shifted. You may tend toward avoidant activities, which can be any activity at all if you do it often enough that it becomes a bit more like a vice or an escapism technique. The thing is, they're not all failure. It's actually just honest information about where you are. Integration isn't the flip of a switch. It's not a one-time event. It's a process that happens in the body, not just the mind. It happens through repetition, through correction, corrective experiences, through your nervous system getting enough evidence that a new belief is safe to take on. Which is why everything we did in month 1 and month 2 matter at this point. You need a regulated nervous system or the capacity to regulate to even approach this material. You need enough self-trust to believe that what you find in the excavation will not destroy you. Those are not prerequisites you can skip. They are the infrastructure that makes this kind of change possible. And so there is neuroplasticity, bless up. The overhyped version sounds like, you can rewire your brain in 21 days. Just think positive thoughts and watch your life transform. No. The underappreciated version is this. Your neurology is not static. It is genuinely, demonstrably plastic. The neural pathways that make up your belief systems are not carved in stone. They are not Hadrian's Wall. They're more like trails in a forest. The ones you walk most often are clear and easy to follow. The ones you don't are overgrown, but they can be cleared again, and new ones can be made. So for neurodiverse brains specifically, this is both vital as it is relieving, because many of us carry this buried assumption that we're somehow more fixed than other people, that because our brains are wired differently, we're stuck with whatever patterns got established. And that's just not what the science shows, I'm sorry to say. What the science does show is that change requires repetition, emotional engagement, and safety. You can't think your way into a new belief. You have to experience your way into one. And that experience has to happen enough times with enough felt safety that your nervous system begins updating its predictions. Sorry, I'm about to facilitate soon and I'm cutting it close. This is why I don't believe in affirmations as a standalone strategy. Telling yourself, I'm worthy, while your nervous system is screaming, danger, danger, this is not what we believe, doesn't create change. It creates cognitive dissonance. For ADHD brains that are already juggling 1,000 signals at once, cognitive dissonance just becomes more noise. What works instead is micro evidence, small, real, embodied experiences that gently contradict the old belief. Not all at once, not dramatically, just consistently. And we can get into specifics in the coming weeks, but for now, I want you to hold on to this. You are not stuck. Your brain is not finished. The beliefs you carry are not permanent fixtures. They're just well-worn trails. And you can make new trails. So, we are going to touch on shadow work some more and subconscious material, and that can land differently for different people throughout the rest of this month and going forward in this series. There are ways to do this work well, and there are ways to do it that are actually re-traumatizing, performative, or reckless. Doing it well means going slow. It means having support. That might be a therapist, a coach, a trusted friend, a regulated nervous system. Ideally more than one of those. It doesn't mean forcing yourself to excavate on a day when you're already dysregulated. It means respecting your own defenses instead of treating them as enemies to be conquered, right? Move slowly and with intention. Your defenses exist for a reason. They kept you safe when you didn't have other options. Part of belief archaeology is honoring what you find, not just trying to replace it with something better, shinier. Doing it poorly looks like forcing catharsis, looks like going deep without a way to come back up. It looks like treating every social media prompt about shadow work as an invitation to pry yourself open without context or containment. It looks like performing healing for an audience instead of actually doing it alone or in community, whatever. So as we move through this month, I want you to treat yourself like a site that matters because you are. Go at the pace that's right for you. Skip a week if you need to. Come back when you're ready. The material's here. It lives on YouTube. What the hell? I'm really cutting it close to this, so I'm going to wrap us up. Uh, the idea is belief archaeology. We are meticulously excavating our beliefs and seeing what does and doesn't fit any longer. How to build new neural pathways that aren't just intellectual concepts, but lived embodied realities. Some of this regulated dead. If some of this resonated, I have created a new quiz. It's called the Adventuring with ADHD quiz. Links in the description, of course. It'll show you where you are on your own ADHD journey and what might be most useful for you at that point. Subscribe if you haven't. Share with someone who you feel would benefit. I will see you next week. But of course, ciao for now.